Hello, Steve White, Trek Boy 89 for Steve Arts 89. Well, I watched episode 3 of Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Choose to Live. I must admit, the show's getting better. We've had 3 sort of standalone episodes, and they've all been okay, which is probably the best season so far. I haven't been a fan. So yeah, this one starts off with space ninjas attacking a starship. We actually see another starship other than Discovery just showing up at a planet, and they've either taken or they're giving out a shipment of dilithium, and 3 space ninjas show up and attack them, and one of them is a Romulan from the cult of Romulan nuns, ninja nuns. What are they called again? The Koat Malat. And she basically says, yeah, choose to live, I'm going to kill you if you don't let me take the dilithium. And of course, he doesn't, and she kills him. She has a knife. And I'm like, that was totally unnecessary. Why did she have to kill him? So this character doesn't make a lot of sense. So, less than if it was a Vulcan doing this, but it's a Romulan. So then we go to Starfleet, and Starfleet is like, well, we've got a little bit of a problem with this rogue space ninja nun, and Vulcan's like, well, we're planning to join the Federation, so if you let us deal with this and not, take the person into custody and, subject them to Federation justice and let us handle it, we will basically keep, going along how we're going to join up with the Federation again. So they're like, okay, politics, we'll play politics. And they say, okay, Michael. And of course, Michael's mum, Mother Burnham, I shall call her because I have no idea what her name is. Mother Burnham shows up and basically says, yeah, no, you'd better let us do what we want and take our person in, because we know she has a reason to do this, and that's more important than anything else, apparently. So they send Michael off with her, and Tilly, who's already had a scene with Saru, and it was very bold, I think, of them to, with all the fat shaming that Mary Wiseman has been going through, and I do not condone that. I've been speaking out against that. They actually had her walk into the mess hall with a plate of mac and cheese and discussing that while eating on camera, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty brave for someone who's being fat shamed and getting criticised to actually have them eating on camera. Obviously they're saying, we don't care what you're saying, which is good. But so she's having this weird moment where she's trying to get out of her comfort zone because she doesn't feel like she feels a bit lost. So Saru thinks it would be a good idea to recommend her for that mission. So she gets recommended for the mission. They all go off on the Millennium Falcon, because that's what they do now. The ship doesn't do anything. It's like Star Wars now. They just send off the Millennium Falcon to have the adventures, or the Defiant, which is sort of like the Millennium Falcon on Deep Space Nine, because they try to make this show more like Star Wars, because that's what the masses want. No, I'm not cynical at all. So they go, they find, actually, she attacks them first. It's a funny thing. There's a whole debate on the ship about, we can't use phasers, we have to take their weapons, we basically have to have ninja swords. Of course, Tilly drops hers and she's very comical. And it's funny how her comic relief plays now. Before, when she was thinner, it played more as a on the spectrum sort of awkwardness, whereas now it plays more like unfortunately more like the stereotypical fat friend who's kind of clumsy, and it doesn't play the same, and I think it falls into like a negative stereotype, which I think they should really avoid. Not that she wasn't good with her performance, but it was sort of like Melissa McCarthy material, I guess. So yeah, but they eventually go down to this moon, and they basically find it's like a crypt. And long story short, basically there was a species, they had a supernova, they sent off a moon full of people in cryo that was going to go to another planet, which they would then rehabitate. But at some point the cryo didn't work and their dilithium ran out, and somehow this Romulan sensed one of these beings and went to their rescue and basically she couldn't ask for dilithium because they wouldn't give dilithium to individuals, so she would have had to disclose the location of and the race of the aliens. They were called the Iberonian. Basically, they have latinum in them. So they were basically, grave robbers were after them. So she was protecting them from that, and she was stealing the dilithium because she couldn't ask for it, which, there's so many issues there. But it doesn't make any sense. She could have approached her government, explained the situation. They could have contacted Starfleet on behalf of them. There's no reason why you'd have to go all ninja vigilante. And killing that man again, that first officer who had a partner and children, which they didn't differentiate if it was a man or woman, actually. I'm not sure. But, and he was kind of hot, so it was sad to see him go. It just wasn't necessary. I'm just like, she can't justify. I don't know how they justified her killing him. I can understand her. I can't even understand her justifying stealing the dilithium. I don't know why they give her all these excuses to accept. But Michael is actually on the right side of that argument and saying she needs to be brought to justice. She killed this man, and the family needs justice. And they're all playing politics. The president and her mother. Her mother is biased because that woman, her name, damn it, I can never even read my own notes. I've forgotten her name. I think it was Javinia or something. She was the one who nursed Mother Burnham back to health once she fell out of one of her time things that she was doing to try and save Michael back in the day. See, I haven't rewatched this series. I've watched every episode once and never again. So it's very hard to remember things, and I don't go back. Like other Star Trek shows, I might actually go back and watch episodes again if I miss something, but I haven't rewatched any of this, which is why I also don't really understand what's happening with Grey. That's the other story in this episode. Grey's body has been finished, the real synth body, and they've got a guardian who's basically like a Bajoran priest or monk to come in by hologram and help them. They have to separate her whatever, because what is it? Is it a ghost? Is it a spirit? Is it a presence? I thought she was just a memory. I don't understand what she is or how she's able to exist. It first played like she was a delusion of Adira, but honestly, and I would have to go back and look. I'm not sure if the canon and the story's been inconsistent or if I'm just not remembering it. And if anyone wants to help me with that, explain it properly. Someone mentioned it, but they didn't really make it clear. They have to remove her, disconnect, remove the connection between her, and then they have to put the presence or the whatever she is into the synth body. And that doesn't happen right away. They perform the ceremony, and he says, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. And he leaves. And she's being anxious because she doesn't know if it's going to work, and if she's just separated herself from this presence, which she could have lived with forever, in order to get the real person back in a physical form. Now, they're talking, God, what is the name of Cruz's character? Whatever. Cruz is talking to Saru, and they're just and it's kind of annoying because there's no real doubt that she's not going to come back. Obviously, they're just dragging it out. They should have just had her go straight back into the body. It was just a waste of time, really, because you knew what was going to happen. There's no suspense or anything. And then she basically goes and sits and waits, and then the brain activity just starts up randomly, and she's back. He's back. They're back. Sorry, I've probably been using the wrong pronouns the whole time. And, yeah, they hug Wilson Cruz's character, and everyone's happy. The only problem is Ian is a much better actor than Blue, and whenever they have scenes together, it's really jarring how bad an actress she is versus how good he is. So I can't watch them on screen together. It's not that they don't work on some level. It's not about chemistry. It's just the difference between the acting ability. Adira is always just speaking lines like she doesn't know what she's doing. She's like in the headlights and just like, oh, I got to say my line now. That's just everything she projects. Whereas Ian actually manages to be the character. So it's just really jarring. But I didn't even finish off their story. This is all in the middle, and it's kind of difficult when they have different stories going through. Do you just tell each story separately, or do you try and tell each step as it goes through? So that's their story. Now back onto the moon, they find that there's basically a warp drive, that it is in fact a ship essentially. Tilly sabotages it, which of course is where she plays on the comedy. This lady shows up, the ninja nun, and she fights the mother, and she has her by the neck with the knife, and Michael is of course afraid her mother's going to die. They basically negotiate with her and say, look, we understand, we are going to fix, basically, it doesn't matter if you get them to the planet, it looks like the cryo's not working, we'll fix it, and then they'll be able to, populate their planet like everything. If we do that, will you believe that we're here? And they explain later on the whole choose to live is okay, you're on a path, and when you meet us and we challenge you, you're going to die. That's the end of your path. Choose another path. And she's saying, well, look, your path is finished. You've done this. You've got them here. They're safe. Choose another path. Choose to live. So she does. She surrenders. They take her in. Politics means she basically gets to go off with the Vulcans. And that's sort of the end of that story too. There's a little bit of a discussion between the Admiral and Michael. She seems to accept it better than in the past, where it's all this is what I think, so it should happen the way I want. She sort of seemed to actually get that she wasn't the centre of the universe for a second, which is nice. Now the other story, there's actually 4 on this, I guess, was the story with Stamets trying to work out what this is. He came up with the conclusion that it is a dark matter anomaly. I was calling it the dark matter anomaly. It's a primordial wormhole, but they have tachyons. There's no tachyons to be detected. So he goes to Prime Vulcan, Navarre, which has blue skies, just like the JJ Prime Universe Vulcan. It's not the Vulcan from the original series of the movies or Voyager or any of the other shows where they actually had the yellow sky, because 25% different. It's still beautiful though, and they do manage to set most of the scenes around sunsets, so that's their way of making it look orange without it actually being the orange sky, because you can still see the blue on the sides and that. And they have this floating sort of little area that they're conducting. It's like a circular, so it has that feeling kind of like on Vulcan Mount Seleia. So there are elements of the Vulcan that looks right. It does look good. And the Vulcans basically, they take all this information, they basically meditate, and he apparently doesn't know anything about this, and he makes a lot of stupid statements about how there's people taking a nap, what's happening. The Vulcan ambassador is very good with handling people. She does, as she points out to Book, understand emotions. Now, Book earlier asked to be involved because he needed to do something, and Stamets said, look, I need a detailed account of what happened to your planet. Can you do that? And he's like, yes, I can do that. Because he initially said, this is too much science here, you can't handle it. I don't need to be helping you with this, I need to be focusing on this. So he's there, and he's feeling regret, he's feeling guilt, he feels like something must have happened that he missed, and it's a bit tiresome. His performance is good, but it's a bit tiresome in that level, because normally something bad happens, you have guilt if you know you could have done something. Something comes to light that you may not have been aware of beforehand, but you know now. There isn't anything like that for him. He's just feeling it for no reason other than sort of victimising himself. So it was annoying me at that point. But then we have a moment where he's talking to the Vulcan ambassador, and she explains she understands emotions because Vulcans have emotions. They just handle them better than humans, basically. And she offers to mind meld with him because one example of tachyons being present would have been like a blue glow in the atmosphere or something. He couldn't remember that, but she said, well, I can go into your memories, we can see for sure. And while he's there, they pause on the screen his memory, which makes it feel like it's a mechanical thing. It doesn't feel organic. That really didn't work. He says, I need this memory. So they go back into another one of his memories, which is where he's seeing his family for the last time. And she says, you can only review it. We can't change it. And he's like, I just need to see. Basically, when the child was running off, he sort of turned away and the child ran off. He could see in reality the child stopped and looked at him, and he could see that he knew, because he'd yelled out something. And he's like, I know he looked at me and he saw me and he knew that I loved him, and I needed to know that, because I didn't know that I'd made it clear because I'd left them and all this stuff. And It plays really well. He's a good actor. Again, I cried. It worked. But that was the end of his story there. So we still haven't worked out what the anomaly is. But book has some resolution, and the end of the episode was him lying on his bed talking to Michael with his planet basically in the hologram form, sort of above the bed, that he was just looking up like he was lying, looking up at the forest. And he hadn't been able to do that before because it was too painful, but now he felt some peace. So that was the end of his story, the end of the episode. And it was okay. The whole Ninja Space Nuns, it's a bit ridiculous, but it's sort of fun. But I was just happy that it was a separate standalone story, and we're not just getting that novel with chapter by chapter approach where you don't really have a story, you don't really get anywhere. I'm glad they have abandoned that. They're acting like they haven't. Like, no, that's our approach we took in the first season. We're sticking with it. No, you've abandoned it, and you've got your overarching story, but you've got your separate stories. That's how this works. That's the best way to do it. So they do seem to be conceding to criticism without admitting it or acknowledging it. But if you look at the show, you can see the differences. So I wish they'd just say, yes, we were wrong, we've changed some things, we're going to work harder on this. It'd be a lot easier. But that's it. That's the episode. That's my analysis of it, my thoughts on it. Apparently the stocks at CBS and all that are going really low down, and some certain people are blaming Discovery for that, and for the premiere being dumped by Netflix and going on to free streaming service, and sort of just the mad dash to get it out because they lost their international distribution and all that. And there's talks of ramifications for that, but that'll all happen later, or it won't. It's either rumour and gossip, or it's actually, happening. We'll find out later. I just sort of thought that was worth commenting on. And I can't believe there's such a long video and long review. I don't know if I'll do a short review like I did last week. But it was okay. I mean, I have to admit the Romulan space ninjas, nuns, space ninja nins, ninja nuns, I don't know what to call them. There was something original series about that because it was so over the top, and almost fun, but not, because I don't know, they don't quite work for me. But at least it was like a standalone story. I'm going to go. All the other issues with the show are still there. It's just the individual episodes are more watchable and will be more interesting. So hopefully I'm not going to be as weary of the next one, because when I realised, oh, that's today, I have to look to see if it's up and then watch it and do a review. I didn't want to. I'm not looking forward to the show on any level. But I'm not dreading it as much because we've had 3 episodes now that were bearable, much like Lower Decks. About halfway through the season it turned and it started to become watchable, and then the last couple of episodes were decent. I actually almost looked forward to the last episode. So I don't know if I'll ever look forward to an episode of Discovery, but I'm not dreading them as much because I'm not getting a slap in the face every time as a Star Trek fan, which I was with almost every other episode of season 1, 2 and 3. There's always something or a few things just going, take that, Star Trek fan, how dare you. How dare you come here to watch Star Trek. Now I'm not feeling that so much. People are still hating it either way, but for the sake of it. But it still deserves some criticism overall as a series. It's still too dark. Like, one thing I meant to mention in my other review is the literal visual darkness of the visual palette of everything. Everything is blue and dark. Everything on the ship. It's depressing. It psychologically affects you when you're watching it. It's not bright. It doesn't make you feel happy and welcome to be here. It's like this dark, ominous tone on the ship. It's always there. And those couple of planets in that other episode with the butterfly people, it was all the same. The whole episode was just dark, and at least Book's planet, there's light and sunlight and yellow and a different colour. But they need to work on that. It just doesn't fit Star Trek. And I know they sort of think, well, this is our show, this is our tone, this is our sort of our themes, all these things we're putting onto it, but they don't work in Star Trek. So they need to work a bit harder. Maybe by season 5, 6, 7, they'll actually get the show looking and feeling like something resembling Star Trek. They're not there yet, but I'm seeing progress. I'm going to go. I can't believe I've talked for nearly 20 minutes, and another 20 seconds I'll get there, so I may as well. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you think. Do you think they're actually getting somewhere, or do you think I'm suffering from Stockholm Syndrome like somebody suggested? And I'm like, I don't think so. I had to think about it for a minute. I'm like, am I just like submitting to the horror of it all, or is it actually getting better? You know, I think it's getting better. I think they're working through some of their issues with the show that didn't work, and they're sort of making some progress. I feel that, and I'm still feeling optimistic for Strange New Worlds. Despite that silly article about the 25% different with the ship, I mean, that was just a excuse for conversation. It was really like nothing. It was like a non-story. But I'm going to go.